bringing hope to many around the globe, transforming lives into legacies. Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil.
The Father and His Household. This 7-part series will help you appreciate the various stages of the relationship between God and man and empower you to fully partake of God's divine nature through Christ.
Humans change, civilizations change, knowledge changes, wisdom changes, experience change. God does not change.
Get your copies of The Father and His Household by Pastor Mensa Otabil, available in 7-part audio series. Contact Altar Bookshop, Christ Temple, now on 233-302-688-000.
And now, today's word.
Well, today I'm starting a series that is very, very dear to my heart. And it's a message that I really want to invest much into. You know, for every preacher, there are messages that you consider the heart of your ministry. And a couple of years ago, I think 2010, I preached Dominion Mandate, which I believe is one of my signature messages. And what I'm going to preach is also another of my signature messages. When people ask me what is the best message you have preached, I consider that my best message. Because it's almost like a Bible survey. It helps you to fully understand the Bible, God's relationship with man, and how God deals with each one of us in a very significant way. So I'm going to take my time and do it. You know, the older I get, the better I become. So I pick those messages, expand them, and work on them far better than I did the first time. So I have retitled the message, and the series is going to be The Father and His Household. The Father and His Household. And the subtitle for today is In the Garden. The Father and His Household. And the Father there is the Father God and His household. One of the challenges a lot of Christians have when they read the Bible is that as they read the Bible from the beginning, the Old Testament, and as you go further into the Old Testament, you see God and His dealings with people. Then you come into the New Testament and see God and His dealings with people. And if you look at it, it seems as if the God of the Old Testament is not the same God of the New Testament. Because the God of the Old Testament is very harsh, or seems to be very harsh, very judgmental, very strong and stern. And the God of the New Testament seems to be like a loving God who is full of grace and so on. So sometimes, even today, people ask, you know, is it the same God? If we were in those days, you know, things would be, God used to work fast, you know. You do something and you fall down, boom, you're dead. And I don't think any one of us desired those days, but people sometimes call to those days. Some theologians have gone ahead to propose that the Hebrew God, Yahweh, is not the same as the Christian God, because the Christian God is merciful, the Hebrew God is very judgmental. And if you are a reader of the Bible, you may be confronted with that reality and that situation. So why does that seem that way? Why does God appear to be harsh in the Old Testament? He appears to be loving in the New Testament. Why does it seem as if God treats people differently under different situations? And in this series, I'm going to take you on a journey. It's going to be like a mini Bible survey. We're going to scan the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. Well, we may not get to Revelation, but from the Old to the New Testament. And we're going to see God's dealings with man in the light of and of his relationships with us. Now, I want you to take time with me because I'm going to take time with myself. This is a very important message, and I would just wish that each one of you take time with it, grasp it well, because it's going to expand your knowledge of God and deepen your Christian life in a very rich way. All right. So first of all, let us establish some truths about the nature of God. And this is not a comprehensive expression of it, but I'm limiting it because of what I'm dealing with. Some truths about the nature of God. First is that God is eternal. God is eternal. As a matter of fact, the Hebrews or the Jews call him the eternal. God is eternal. He's the same always. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. In Psalm 90, verse 2, we read, "Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." God is eternal. He is timeless. He exists outside of the created order. He does not exist and within the creation. He exists outside of the creation. But he works through time. So although he is outside of time, he works through time, and he honors his promises within time. But the important thing to remember is that God is eternal. That is a very difficult concept for any human being to accept or to fully understand, because all human beings are time bound. Everything we do is based on time. Things start, they grow old, they die. Things start from 1 year, they end another year. No matter how long, whether it's 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000,000 years, it's still time. But God lives in timelessness. God lives in eternity, both past, present, and future. With God, there is nothing like a past, there is nothing like a present, there's nothing like a future. Everything's a present. So that is eternity. That's very important. The second important thing I want to say about God is that God is sovereign. God is sovereign. That means he is supreme and he is not under anyone. He is supreme and he is not under anyone. Psalm 45, verse 5, God himself says this about himself. He says, "I am the Lord and there is no other. There is no God besides me. I will gird you, though you have not known me. I am the Lord, there is no other. There is no God besides me." God is supreme. He has no competition. And he is not under anyone, and none of his decisions are subject to anyone's sanction. So nobody can command him to determine what he does. He's supreme, he's above everything. So number one, he's eternal. Number two, he is sovereign. Number three, the third thing I want to say about God is that God is immutable. Immutable, that means he's perfect and he doesn't change. Now this is very critical for what I'm going to teach in this series. God is immutable. He's perfect. He doesn't change. In James chapter 1, verse 17, we read, "For every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and comes from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning." There is no variation. There is no measure of change in God. In Malachi 3:6, it says, "For I am the Lord, I do not change." God is immutable. He doesn't change. He doesn't mutate. He doesn't improve. He doesn't evolve. He is perfect, in a state of perfection that does not require change and improvement. The human beings are not like that. We are not in a state of perfection. We are in a state that requires improvement. And we improve, we mature, we grow. God doesn't grow. He doesn't learn. he doesn't become better. He is perfect. He is immutable. So he is an unchanging God. His nature does not change. He does not improve. And he is as he is all the time. Permanently fixed in perfection. So if I am to use all these three to describe God, I'll say that God is a perfect, eternal, and sovereign being who does not change. He is a perfect, eternal, sovereign being who does not change. So, from eternity before humans appeared on the planet, he is the same. After we appeared on the planet, he is the same. Throughout his dealings with everybody from Adam through to Noah, to Abraham, right through to Moses, to Samuel, to David, right through the kings, the prophets, to our time, he's the same. He doesn't change. Humans change. Civilizations change. Knowledge changes. Wisdom changes. Experience change. God does not change. He doesn't. He's perfect. He's sovereign. He's eternal. You can't improve him. You can't turn him. You can't manipulate him. And that is very important because sometimes we think we can manipulate God. Now, the whole idea from the earth, the whole idea of a being who is perfect, who is eternal, who is sovereign, who does not change, is difficult to get because everything we have in our human experience is imperfect, is under some kind of order, and changes. So, even when we want to talk about God, there is nothing human, there is nothing earthly, there is nothing in the universe we can use to compare him. Nothing. Every comparison is an analogy that is short. It doesn't fully express him because nothing compares with God. Nothing. Nothing. The things we consider as permanent, they are not permanent. Even the earth is not permanent. It came at a certain point and it will go at another point. The sun is not permanent. It came at a certain point, it will go another point. The universe itself is not permanent. It came at another point and it's going to go. So when we look at everything God has made, nothing can be used to compare to him. Because everything falls short of him. However, since we are human beings, when we want to understand God, we have to use the things we are familiar with to try to explain the eternal, the sovereign, and the perfect God. All right. Now, in addition to these three, God, we know that God is good, we know God is love, we know God is truth, we know God is just, and so on and so forth. These are all the attributes of God. Now, when you compare God to man, he is fixed. He is fixed. He's permanent. He's perfect. He's sovereign. But man is not like that. Man changes. You and I, you've been changing for quite a while now, haven't you? You know, we from the day we are conceived in our mother's womb, we start changing from 1 cell to 2 cells to 4 cells, and then we become multicellular, and then we begin to develop different parts in our mother's womb, and then we are born, and we don't stay as we are. We keep improving. We grow hair, we grow teeth, we start talking, we crawl, we walk, and we go through life, and then you become the big person you are, and then you keep growing down, you know. That's human beings. So when we compare anything, a building, it grows old, so you have to paint it, you have to renovate. But God doesn't change. So when we talk about the way God relates to man, it is a changeless God relating to a changing people. a changeless God relating to a changing people. And that is why sometimes you get the impression God changes. God does things differently in different times. But really, the change is not from God, it's from the people. Let me use a human analogy, and remember what I said, that nothing human can fully explain this. But when you are in a car and driving along the road, especially when you are out in the countryside, and you're driving, and for example, if you have trees by the roadside, and you start driving, you get the feeling that the trees are moving, don't you think so? All right? You get the feeling. And actually, the language we use is that the trees were flying past. Or the things which are not moving, we say they are the ones moving. And we who are moving, we think we are the permanent ones. Because in the car, the trees which are fixed are moving. And you who is moving, you seem to think you are permanent. That's how we deal with God. God is the fixed one, we are the moving ones. But because we are moving, we have a sense that God is also moving. He doesn't move. We change, he does not change. In our driving mirror, we may see him as moving, but he is fixed. A second analogy I can give you to try to explain this is the way our solar system works. You know, for a long time, people thought that the sun moves around the earth. That was the general feeling. The sun moves around the earth because every person who is on the planet, if you observe what is happening on that planet, you don't think the earth is moving. I mean, they tell us the earth is moving, but from my human experience, I have nothing to tell me the earth is moving because since I came on this planet, it has been permanent. But it's moving. So in the morning, we see the sun rise. In the evening, the sun sets. So when you are on earth, the impression you get is that what is moving is the sun. Because that is the one which rises and sets. And that was, every human being thought so until sometime around, I think, 1543, the man called Nicolaus Copernicus proposed a new theory that really the earth is the one which is moving. That we are actually revolving around the sun. And people say, how can that be? How can we be moving? The sun is the one which moves. We see it moving. But then he said, no, we are the ones moving. We rotate and we revolve, and the sun is fixed in our solar system, although that is not an absolute truth because the sun also moves. But the movement of the sun is not what gives us the sunrise and the sunset. What gives us the sunrise and the sunset is the movement of the earth. Now, why am I using these two analogies? Because when you are moving, you get the impression that the fixed is also moving. But God is fixed, he's permanent, he's sovereign, he's perfect, he does not change. So anytime you see something that gives you the impression God is changing, it's not God changing. It is the changeable ones who are changing, but God is always the same. Are you following me? Now, I want you to fix that in your head because what I'm going to teach further on will expand on all of these things. It's going to be just a fabulous time.
The Father